that lead. That's going to be, in one way, a setup for you. In another way, it's still a first conversation. So you got to be careful. You want to be somewhat knowledgeable, and you want to be fluent in having something to say to them about what you know about them. So I don't want you to just go pick up the phone, start calling and say, hey, I just called a few minutes ago. What's going on? How can I help you? I want you to think about that for just a minute and say, what do I do to follow up on a lead? What's the proper way to go about it? And I want to start with something very simple, is I want you to prep. Even if it's for a few minutes or an hour, I want you to prep for that call, even though it's just fresh in and you want to get to it in a hurry. You want to come across as having some understanding of what might be going on, some preparation about who they are. So when I talk about preparation, I'm talking about just getting a quick look at who they are, getting a profile. Then I'm going to talk about what do you do on that first follow-up? How do I touch? How do I reach out? What do I say when I get in touch with them? What happens if they don't answer the phone? How do I leave a voicemail? These are the kind of things we'll talk about as far as what those touches and cadence of touch looks like. Then I want to make sure that we keep up some sort of contact until we get an engagement with them. We actually make the contact. We have a conversation enough to at least get to what do we do next? And that is what we call keeping up the cadence. You keep after it till some period of time. It could be a number of touches. It could be over a period of time that you simply say, well, maybe this person's not quite ready for me yet. I'll put them back into a nurture mode and we'll go from there. So I'm going to give you a couple ideas about some tools to use to do some quick research. This is not, when I say a thorough, detailed analysis of everything that they do and what their industry's like and have you. But I want you to get enough information about them to where you can be intelligent in your communication with them on that very first contact. As you have heard so many times, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. So I want to make sure that we're prepared for that in terms of getting ready for this follow-up. So preparation, I want to give you a couple suggestions here. You get a lead. It may pop up in your Salesforce as a hot lead. You may see it as a form fill coming across your website. If you're subscribing to the chat services of Smith AI, it may show up as a note from Smith AI that someone has engaged in the chat. Here's the transcript, time to follow up. So however it gets to you, consider it sort of a web lead, new lead. You want to follow up with it. First thing I want to do is make sure we have a response time in place. In mind, we have a target of trying to get back within a couple of hours. No more if at all possible. Sometimes it's just going to be unavoidable. You're on a call, you've got another meeting going on, you don't get it for a couple hours, and then what? Is it dead? Is it cold? But when you get the lead, when you have it in your hand, I want you to think in terms of 1 to 2 hours max responding to it. But the first thing I want you to do before you pick up that phone or open up your email and start sending an email to this person is I want you to look up a couple things. I want you to go in there and look at their website. Very, very least. Just look at the website. Go straight to their About Us page. Look at who's on the management team, a little bit about how they describe what they do. And then I want you to go back and kind of quickly look at their solutions, their products, or whatever other tabs they have on their page. Not to study it in the sense of knowing every detail about them, but get a sense of who they are, what the industry is, who the players are, how they position themselves, and get a sense of what this company might look like. Second thing I want you to do is go Google them. Go look at their industry. Maybe it's medical services industry. Look at their company. If they're a dentist or dermatologist, look them up. And if you got their name, which you should, obviously, on the lead form or in the lead note, then Google their name. You might also go and do a quick check on LinkedIn and see if there's any connections there that you might already have second or third. I don't necessarily ask that you follow up on them then and there, but get a sense, am I connected to this person already at some level? You'd be surprised where you might find some connections, and maybe a little bit about their company. Plan your follow-up response. You're going to call them. You got a sense of if they said anything, did they describe what they were calling about? Make sure you incorporate that into your response and when you pick up the phone and call them. Or if they don't have a particular issue that they've described in their request to give them a call, be sure that's one of your questions you ask them. Well, you called me for a reason. Could you describe that for me? I'd be curious. Your introduction is going to be first who you are. I'm calling back because, the reason for your call. Your attention grabber, which I'll describe in a little bit more detail of, we work with people like yourselves in terms of helping them with IT or whatever information. Like I say, if they provided you already, I want to be able to respond, make my response, and do my introduction in terms of what I do relative to what they asked about. If they didn't ask about anything, again, we go back to that earlier or tactic of just saying, well, you called me for a reason, would you mind describing what it is? The call to action will be if you have to leave a voicemail or if you are talking to them live, you want to suggest that the next step would be to perhaps get together for a brief one-on-one or for an extended conversation to give more detail about what they do. Don't make the assumption that they're ready to talk to you for 30 minutes when you make this call. Be polite, be considerate of their time. If now is not a good time, perhaps it would be great for us to get the other 30 minutes and go in more detail. What would be a good time for you? So be respectful of their time as you set up this call to action. The first follow-up touch, what does it look like? What does it sound like? How do you direct it? How do you communicate it is real key. You want to come across really immediately direct, be friendly, have that nice soft smile tonality in your voice as you begin to engage with them. And that first follow-up touch is going to be typically going to be make a phone call first. You got a phone number for them. If they've called you, if they've sent in a form fill, if you've gotten a hot lead off of the Salesforce or Smith AI has sent you a chat response, wherever it's coming from, if there's a phone number on that request, that's where you want to go first. Even if you do not get a conversation started at this point, you leave a voicemail. If you do get a conversation started, the idea is going to be to keep it short, set up a time that's going to be convenient for them, understand what the purpose of the call is to get more information about what they're concerned. I respect the fact that I've called you back asynchronously to your calendar, so I just want to make sure we find the time that we have 30 minutes or so to talk. When you get off the phone or when you leave that phone mail, confirm the appointment immediately with an email. Or if you leave a voicemail, simply say, hey, Ken, I just called. I know you're busy. Got your voicemail, left you a quick voicemail. The reason I called was to respond to the lead form you sent in this morning. Just want to make contact, touch base, and talk about what our next step is. Please call me at 512-431-4808. If I don't hear from you by this afternoon, I'll call you first thing in the morning. So that is the kind of follow-up you're going to do. One way or the other, you're going to leave either have a conversation or have a phone mail, and you follow that up immediately with a corresponding email. If you have a LinkedIn to them, or if you have their email, or if you see them on LinkedIn, send a LinkedIn invite. Ask them to, hey, join my network. Talk to you this morning, or left you a message this morning. Thank you for your interest. I'd like you to join my network. Get that out if you got that LinkedIn process. Now you're going to move into what do you do next? We call this a cadence. It's a sequence of events and the timing of events that you engage in from this point forward. You've made your response. You've reached out. You've had an appropriate follow-up. And now you're into where do I get this guy going from here? Let's talk about cadence for a minute. Cadence is really, really important. If we look at research into our industry or any industry perhaps, but in the MSP industry especially, the average number of touches, that could be an email, could be a phone mail, could be a text, could be a chat. It could be a lot of things that represent a touch, whether it's automated or direct with you personally. There's going to be a number of them that it takes to get to an engagement. And anybody want to, I think I've actually said it once or twice, but did anybody remember what the typical number of touches are between the first expression of interest until you actually engage in a conversation with someone?
There are numbers all over the board from used to be, 6, and I've heard as high as 17. I don't know. So I think it's anywhere in between there.
You picked a good range. Anybody else got a thought on that?
I've heard a lot of numbers this week, so maybe 15. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, all right, good. Dan, how about you?
I missed the question. Sorry.
The question is, how many from the time you pick up the first expression of a lead having an interest in talking to you, form fill, chat, message, phone call, whatever, how many touches does it normally take to get a full conversation engaged from that point forward? What is the average number of activities that you'll go through to get this person to actually sit down and have a conversation with you, which we call engagement?
I think it's number 16.
Yeah, okay. Jerome, you agree with that?
I've heard 6 to 7, and I've heard 16. So
Okay, well, you're both right. You're all right. You're all correct. Today's answer is 16, 15, 16, 17. Yesterday's answer was 6 to 7, that's back in the day before we had we had TV. That's really about the only TV. TV and radio, no internet, no gaming, no mobile phones, no text messaging, no Slack, no nothing. And maybe it was 6 to 7 touches to get an impression that would register and stick for a while. Today, with the inundation of technology pushing messages to us through all of our devices, all of our means of communications, that number has jumped up to well above a dozen. And there's more than one company that has done research that we can share with you if you ever want to see it, research reports, statistics, and the number is around 13 to 16 touches. So that is what it takes, and that's what we got to kind of plan for. I'm going to show you some numbers later where I've used that number as the maximum number of touches you'd have to make, and I want you to be prepared for what that magnitude of that number would be if you're trying to get in 90 days connection with 3 or 4 people. It's pretty awesome in terms of size and magnitude. So one of the things we want to do is make sure we plan out a cadence. Now, if we get engagement after the 3rd or 4th touch, that's great. That's fantastic. You're on. Your game is on. You swung the bat and you hit the ball. So now you've got to make the steps into the sales funnel. You want to have that first conversation to do more qualify. You get into qualify mode. And then from there you go into qualified. You start down the assessment path, into the proposal path, and into the final close. But getting those at-bats to get into the sales process at all is a pretty intense effort. So the cadence really deals with what am I going to do for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Typically a cadence of following up on somebody that's an interest, or if you're doing outbound calling, you want to at least have a cadence planned out for 2 weeks. You may find that it takes more. Hopefully you'll find it takes less. You may want to extend it if you're seeing some promising communication back and forth. You just can't seem to find the right time to connect. Plan for 14 touches at least. I use 14 as kind of somewhere between 13, 15, 16, that type of thing. So 14 or 15 is a good number. We also find through research that if you mix it up, have at least 3 vectors of touch, generally will improve your ability to improve the probability of getting connected. So think in terms of a mix of phone calls, emails, voicemail, text, social media. There's more. We'll go through those in a little bit. To mix them up at a certain regular rate, an interval being the time between and the number being the duration. So if I'm doing something for 14 days, business days, it's probably a touch a day. Or if I'm trying to do something in 2 weeks and 14 touches, I'm going to be looking at about 1.5 touches a business day. Somewhere in there is going to be the right mix, but mix it up. It doesn't have to be make a call, wait 2 weeks, and call again. It can be a matter of 2 or 3 days between touches, and they don't have to be the same interval for every touch you make, as you'll see here in some of the examples I'll show you later. Once you engage, determine the next step. What I like to see as the next step once we engage is to have that first conversation, really to explore what's going on. Are we the right fit for you? Are you the right fit for us? Are you indeed in a situation where I can start looking at the BANT cycle that you're on and make sure that we start following that? And that puts you in that sales funnel process from lead to sales engagement. So the engagement really is that transition point, and that's what I'll use as the definition for engagement when we go through some more examples. And engagement also could have the same results as we talked about earlier. Engagement could mean, well, we engaged, we talked, and we're really not a good fit. So, but I'm going to put you in nurture mode. I'm just going to keep in touch every once in a while, let you know what we're doing. If something pops up and we can help, then we'll be there to do so. So that is a result. It could be the fact that you just put them on sort of, you're really not somebody's going to use my services, but we do call on the same people, and perhaps we just help each other out with our networking and our Rolodex, sharing our contacts and being aware that if I come across somebody that needs your services, I'll refer them to you, and hopefully likewise. Does that make sense? So if you get engaged and you get going with something, that's great. If they don't engage, don't throw them away. They are still opportunities down the road potentially for you to be able to work with them. So put them on your nurturing list. By the way, if you didn't get the message yesterday from Rob and Adrienne, anything and everything you do, all these touches and every conversation, every engagement point you have, log it into Salesforce. Keep it as your sort of your archive and your record and your track record of what's going on, your breadcrumbs, so you know exactly where you are, where you've been, and if something breaks down, you've got at least some point of reference to figure out what happened and where.
If I can intervene for just a second.
Yeah.
And it gets back to what Stanley called out the other day with, hey, are you guys going to micromanage me? Are you going to see where I go and everything I do? No, that's not the idea. The idea is to build that database and to see where, and we talk about bandwidth, seeing where your bandwidth is. And if we need to move some things around and work together as a team, your coaches and I and Rob, to make that happen for you, because if it's not going the way it needs to go, we can be that voice of change and get you, well, we were looking at this, we see this has happened 5 times, maybe we should invest our energy in another place. So it's not a matter of micromanaging you and wanting to know where you are, and all the time you're your boss. We're here to guide and support you. So keeping that in mind, Salesforce is that's the drum we're going to keep beating. Every single one of us, no matter who you talk to in this office, Salesforce is the way and the light. We're going to expect you to enter accordingly and make sure that information is accurate and correct. Is that a fair ask? You just give me a thumbs up. You don't have to come off or a head shake or I understand or no, can't do.
Yeah, I think, and it helps us too as coaches to be able to work with you and saying, I've done this a couple of times. I just can't figure out where this is breaking down. Well, let's take a look at it. Well, when I say that, let's take a look at it. One of the things I'm going to want to do as a coach, and Teresa and Bob as well, will want to be, let's go back and see what's happened here. Let's just kind of trace it back. Let's go back to this point and see what was going on there. And if there's something that would have given us an indication or clue at that point that we were going to end up here. I like to use the racetrack. Anybody here on NASCAR? I've got my adopted, so to speak, son-in-law, or as my stepson, so to speak, is my significant other's son, who is a NASCAR fanatic, and he loves it. And we always talk about when race events and crashes and incidents with bad turnouts happen, is it's never at the corner where you see the accident kind of culminating and parts flying everywhere. That's not where it happened. It happened maybe around just after the curve right before it, maybe somewhere down the mid straightaway before that curve. That's where the accident started. That's where something came unglued, somebody got bumped, something came off the car, and we get this cascading effect that resulted in this chaotic crash around the next curve. So we're going to back up and go through what's happened and talk about where did we perhaps do something we didn't or shouldn't have done, or didn't do something we should have done, at what point, and let's make sure we look at that whole sequence of events there so we can figure out what it is we did so we can hopefully plan for it next time. That make sense? So that's what we're going to be. You're going to be communicating with a lot of people, you're going to kind of want to know what I said and what was done and what my commitments were. And I'm going to need that little recording to play back as well. You are. I'm going to need it as a coach to be able to help you unravel things that you have questions about why things are not going to your expectation. So it's going to work for both of us. And in the end, it's going to hopefully help both of us, help you especially. Okay, cadence. Any questions about cadence and what it means? Okay, let's look up some of the tools that you can use to kind of put these things in play. We have a lot of resources available. I'm going to try to pick the few out that are most salient to this stage of the process. Salesforce Pardot, if you haven't guessed, is number one on my list. Use Salesforce. If you use it as a great logging tool, you're going to be able to use it over and over again to track what's going on, see what you've done with other people like them, kind of get a sense of what's going on, help you kind of make the decision and play out the next few steps in your process. LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, can't emphasize that together these two, LinkedIn, Salesforce, and Sales Navigator and Salesforce Pardot together can be really be tremendous sales to you and a tool for you as well as a prospecting tool. Google search, there for everyone, tons of stuff. Biggest problem you have is filtering through to the stuff that's appropriate and pertinent to what you're trying to do. But if it's out there, I think Google will help you find it. Again, look for industry, company, and individual kinds of information about what's going on in terms of learning about a lead as you're first starting the process. It certainly, as you get more engaged with it, you're going to continue to use these tools. You get smarter and smarter about who they are, their industry, in preparation for those first conversations, the buyer conversation, the assessment, certainly the proposal, and on into the close. There are a lot of alerts out there. I like to use them. There are some very subtle ones and some sort of not so well-known ones, but certainly Google Alerts, Owler, Awario. There's one, the TalkWalker, which I use for industry checking. Sometimes you'll find some of them are free, some of them require a subscription, some of them just make you watch a bunch of ads, but use them because you're not in a passive way. You're out doing a lot of other things while other things are happening to them in their industry. And if you want to monitor a particular industry that you're focused on or a particular company you're trying to address, setting up an alert for them will help you get notes or get actions that are going on in their world perhaps before you see them. Zoom Info, you all have the subscription now to Zoom Info. It has a lot of information there about industry. So you are sort of industry per contact, what industry they're in, what their demographic is, what their job titles are, so you can start filtering. I want to speak to high-level people with more than 15 employees, people in these specific 3 or 4 industries. Zoom Info can be a quick way to do that. You're going to be populating your Salesforce database most likely a lot from Zoom Info, but also from your sphere of influence, from cards you gather when you go to meetings, from other information sources like local Chamber of Commerce directories, from the local business journals and publications in your area. You'll find lots and lots of sources to pull information into your Salesforce database. But Zoom Info is going to be a big one, and it can also be a great research tool when you're looking at industry-related kind of information.
Hey, Jim, is that Zoom Info, is that like part of a package or something?
It's a service that we provide. It's a name. It's a database. It's probably the best database we've seen of companies, individuals, their titles, their contact information, their company size. And so it's a great filtering tool if you're looking to filter down what is the target subset market that I want to go to, whether it's for mass marketing or whether it's for concentrated prospecting. So it's a great filtering tool that helps you get focused on a key set or subset of companies that you'd like to focus on for whatever reason, like I said, a campaign, a prospecting strategy, or whatever.
Okay. But you mentioned that we all have it. Like, how do we
do it? It's going to be the means by which we populate your Salesforce database. It's through Zoom Info.
Okay. So Salesforce uses that to input data.
Yeah.
For various.
There are a lot of list resources available to you. We picked Zoom Info as probably being the best of breed. And we provide that service to you as a fee, but it's a great way to get started and get detailed information, contact level information about people in your market, in your business community that you can use to reach out, make contact, make connections, whether you're doing a campaign to 500 of them, or you're trying to focus on the best of breed, pick the top 40 that you really want to go after yourself with a more personalized approach that you can't achieve in what I would call a more generalized marketing campaign. Just to look at it as sort of a level of marketing and sales that you control, as opposed to having just a broadcast kind of approach of sending a campaign out to a few hundred people.
Mm-hmm. But I guess what I was asking, how do I control that? I think I probably have different packages as not being a franchisee, but just being part of David's team that maybe I didn't get certain information. So that's what I'm saying. How do I see that or look for it? Or
talk to Adrienne about it. It's also, I think we can get you information with you. It's on MIT Commit. It was announced in...
It's on Connect? Oh, if it's on Connect, I'll find it.
Yeah, it should be on Connect. It was announced.
That's perfect.
I think either 1 or 2 town halls ago about being available and how you can subscribe to it, and to contact Adrienne Marquez if you were interested in learning more about it.
Okay.
That's all about how to access it. Someone with David and yours maturity in the system, and you've been using Salesforce for a while, you're going to have a lot of information in there. Some of it may be dated, some of it may be different. But one good thing about handling Salesforce and Zoom Info together, you can get some deduping and remove duplications and get more correct updates, more current updates from merging the two.
Yeah, I'm not really seasoned in Salesforce. I've never used it. I've been playing with it. I added some leads last night or this morning, but yeah, I've only been with you guys for like 2 weeks. So all this.
Give me another week or 2. We'll get you there.
Can I give you another lifeline while we're here?
Sure, go ahead.
So in a while, probably the next few hours on this subject, you're going to get an email from Alex Blythe, who's in our marketing team. One of your asks concerned SEO and some of these other things, social and whatnot. So Alex is going to help us fill that ask by booking some time with you individually. We're not going to do it as a group or as a training session. He's going to book some time with you individually so you can talk SEO and some of these other things involving Salesforce and some social stuff and all these other marketing kind of things that you're looking for. So be on the lookout for that email from Alex Blythe, and that should hopefully get you in that direction. Stanley, meanwhile, I will work on the Zoom info information. So you can go ahead and stay with Jim on this, and I'll do the legwork and put in Connect for you, okay?
Yeah, I'll look at Connect after we're done. I've been playing every night, so I'll go look for it.
There you go. Good. Beautiful. I'll make it easy on you. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, that's even better.
We'll try anyway. Okay, any other guys, do you have any questions about this idea of following up a lead? We're going to get more into this as we go into some of our post-training stuff and get more in detail. I'm going to show you a little example of what a cadence might look like, a playbook might look like, or does look like, that you'll be getting more detail on as we go through not just this training, but in our post-training exercises as well.
Jim?
Yeah.
This may not be related to what you're covering, but for our marketing plan, we got a huge list. I think I have got 4,000 plus. How do you pick the first, 10 or 20 to follow?
So I'm going to go into that next presentation. You guys are great segue material for me because you're getting me set up for the next segment of our conversation. So between you and Jerome, I like your questions. That's the next topic we're going to talk about is how do you take this big mass you've got of names and people and resources, and I'm going to pick my top 40 that I really want to personally nurture myself and take care of. How do I do that? And I'm going to talk exactly to that point here in just a minute. Is that okay?
Oh, that's wonderful, One more thing. I think personally, I also need to spend more time with the Zoom info list and other SOI list. But do you know how can we kind of start putting our comments like, hey, I checked this. This is a verified number. This is a good number. Or this is not a good number. Things like that. How do we do that?
You verify the individual contacts on the list that's good or not good.
Yes, you call a number and say that number doesn't exist. So how do you capture that information?
So you probably would take a note when you call someone. You're going to set up as a task in Salesforce. That was and maybe you say, I called this number. The person's moved, or there's no longer there, or the phone number is not working or disconnected. Make a note to that effect in the task, and probably note that in the comment section, or just note it in your Salesforce entry. But it'll be there anyway because the task will be associated with that entry, and you can notate that. The fact that it, even if an email bounced, or if you had a bad phone number, or the person had moved or moved on, then you just make that notation right in the task that you set up when you called the person.
Sure. No. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions about following up on that first lead, that first call? We're going to come back to this many, many times as we talk to you through coaching. What did you do? What was the secret you went into? Did you set up a cadence? What was that first call like? And we'll be asking these kind of questions, and you'll know the answer because you're going to be logging every one of the activities you do into Salesforce. And so it'll be very easy if you do that. We'll be able to pick it out very quickly and kind of go back and replay it, dissect it, analyze it, whatever we need to do to make sure we learn as much from it as we can.
Hey, Jim. Quick question on the preparation side of things. Doing the research about the customer or the prospect. What if they don't have a website, right? I mean, a lot of the small businesses don't have websites, and so the best you can do is just get as much info as you can, and then
exactly. You get as much as you can. There's going to be some brick walls you hit, and box canyons you get trapped in, and some dark alleys you can't find your way out of when you go into Google. I would say a legitimate business in our communities of any good size is going to have a website of some sort. I may not like the quality of it. Not having a website might be a message in and of itself. So just kind of think about that. What does that mean to you? And you might find other ways to process it by looking at Google or whatever. And these are not the only resources. I'm giving you sort of a core example of what you could use. And by the way, I'm talking about things you can use within a period of an hour and get some good, quick information that would help make your call to that person, that first contact, an intelligent one, and one that shows that you know a little bit about what's going on and helps you be more comfortable in communicating and talking with that person if you have a little bit of knowledge about who they are, what their industry is, et cetera. Okay? Marketing playbook. I want you to go to your marketing playbook as well. There's lots of ideas there to look for, how to find information. Don't forget it as a resource. Marketing assets, same thing. There's a ton of stuff in there you can use, white papers, playbooks, et cetera, that might help you in planning for a quick call to this first contact that you're making. And we have your quarterly newsletter.
This message is
if you haven't browsed the marketing assets for the advisor, that's the 8-page newsletter that comes out every quarter. There are stories in almost every one of them about what we've done for some company in some way that relates to security, to performance, to how do you select a managed service provider over a simple break fix kind of a solution.
I call this number.
I'm focusing on the testimonials you'll see in those publications. You can also go look at the testimonials on the website and be familiar, because that will give you some company specific information that you might be able to relate to that client or that prospect that's calling into you that would help you in that conversation.
Would we be able to see past,
Yes, if you go to
advisor issues?
If you go to Salesforce and look at the marketing asset library, one of the folders in there is the advisor. So the last 3 years of the advisor.
Okay.
You can look at the last, 12 quarters of publications and kind of pull out. The advisor, I'll mention to you again and again and again, is a great first piece to send to someone who wants to know more about who you are. I like them so much better than a generic 2-page, 3-page flyer about we do backup, recovery, monitoring, firewall, just a list of all the things we talked about we don't want to say in our introduction 30-second commercial. The advisor is a true story. It tells a story about something we've done for someone else. Even if it's not industry relevant, it does speak to who we serve and the kind of people that come to us for our services. And then it also has a more generic topic about security, ransomware, network performance, disaster recovery, things of that nature, topics that most people in a small business can probably relate to at some level. Those are great first send pieces when you're talking to a new lead and you're engaged in a conversation with them. These are great takeaways for them to look at and remember who you are. That's my marketing plug for the day. Okay. Salesforce process. I just kind of want to push this in here as sort of a sequence of when you're going to be logging things into Salesforce. We've worked on this. This is going to change as we go through next few weeks and months. But it does give you kind of a roadmap as to where you should be logging information. You log it when it's a new lead, park it in there, tag it as a new lead, mark it as qualified, because I'm qualifying in the engaging process. I'm kind of going back and forth. I'm nurturing it until I decide it's got a qualified component to it, and I'm going to move it into the qualify cycle. I'm going to have meetings and presentations and maybe suggest go to a webinar or maybe whatever. Engage them in ways until I get it qualified to the point where it's now into the sales funnel. And the first step in that process is the business assessment. And then I move through the proposal into the contract. Every one of these are major steps of logging a task or a status change within Salesforce. So I just want to put that out there as your kind of a checklist in a way of what should be going into Salesforce and when. Adrienne has got lots of great webinars that talk about this in more detail specifically. And we're going to be putting more out there as we get further and further into your use of it. You'll see more and more information about how to use Salesforce. But this is a good way to kind of guide yourself through what needs to be into Salesforce as you get to various levels of your engagement. Questions about first lead? You got that first lead, the ball's in the air, you got your bat ready to swing, and you take that swing. Then what happens? How do you get that connection, that at bat, to turn into something real for you in terms of a live, valid prospect that you can move to close? Okay.
Well, I don't have a question, Jim, but like in the training, do you guys, or have you thought about, once we go through these steps, having a scenario where we actually see it in action, so that we then kind of are we have an impression in our minds as each of those pieces fall into place?
Yes. Now, you and I both know every one of these interactions is going to be different. Mm-hmm. But I've got what we call a little bit of a cadence plan. I'll show you right now. That'll be part of the material that you see in your, that's not the right one. Let me get the right one up here. That you'll see in your supplemental material. But this is a good place to bring this up because I think it's a great question. And I'm going to see if I've got it already loaded up here.
I mean, I don't want to tie the other guys up. If they're up on this, then I can just point me in the direction and I can kind of read it over later. Just scenarios. I'm from Missouri, I guess. Show me.
Well, hey,
sometimes
I still think the same thing. Show me. I like those kind of things. Let me just pull this out real quick. All right, hang on, guys. I'm going to go to another presentation that I don't have pulled up. I apologize for that, but I'm going to get it right away, and then I'm going to bring it up, switch to it. Get my window out of the way here.
While he's maneuvering that, Stanley, I am unable to find a Zoom info module. So you are correct. It is not searchable. So here's what we're going to do to pay that off. Let's go ahead and get an email to Adrienne, because I don't want to start plugging documents that I'm not supposed to be plugging, because I don't have full force of knowledge in that. So I'm going to leave it to the expert. Go ahead and reach out to Adrienne and get a little bit more. I know there's a link in Salesforce, but it's just some general information. There's an email, looks like from July 14th, concerning how that approach is made. And I guess it's a declaration that you understand that Zoom Info does this and does that. She can either resend that email to you, or she can kind of take you through the steps of how that works with Zoom Info. So I want to make sure the experts stay the experts in this situation. I don't want to start docked up and on you if I'm pointing you in the right direction. So let's keep that simple and go straight through Adrienne. Is that a fair ask?
Oh yeah, I already made a note for myself. It's highlighted in green. Give Adrienne a call. So
Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't know if there's some things I don't get right now because I'm kind of new. So that's probably the process. You know what I mean? So
I'm with you. No, I
worries.
totally understand. And my job is to take that, use that process to make this process better. So you and I are in the same boat in regards to how this thing flows and works. And I've got lots of notes and lots of ideas for Roger next week too. So it works out. So your confusion is also my confusion, and we're going to get through confusion together.
Okay, now I'm taking a little bit of risk here because I'm going to put something up here that I'm not going to explain in infinite detail, but I want to show you what we're putting together for the Jay Barrow sales training program that you guys are going to be involved in. And it's a bunch of playbooks and cadence books on how to follow up, how to make an initial call, how to follow through the cadence of a outbound prospecting plan. I'm going to give you an example. This is the cadence plan and I think it's going to address what you're talking about, Stanley. What are the steps we take at what stages? And this is, as I said, unfortunately, it's not an exact science. So this is not going to be the exact, get my bar to expose itself here again. So this is the sales cadence, and I'm going to show you kind of a complicated little staggered chart here. What we're looking at is a 12-day duration with 14 touches to follow up on a web lead. And it talks about when day by day, what kinds of touches you should be or could be making as an example in your action plan. Now, I'll give you a quick legend on this right now. SM means social media, EM means email, TX means text, PH means phone, VM means voicemail, VID means video, and DM means direct mail. So to explain what the cadence is, this is going to be your plan, and you shake it around, move it around the way you want to, but I want you to end up with a 12-day plan for this prospect that just called. And the plan is going to be, I want to make a phone call as my very first step. I may connect, or it may turn into a voicemail. That's why it's got PH1/VM1, phone call 1, voicemail 1. I'm going to follow it up with an email. My first email, same day within 24 hours, and I'm going to also follow that up by checking social media. In this particular case, probably LinkedIn check to see if I'm connected. So there's your menu for day one. Day two is you're going to make that second phone call and or end up with a connection with a voicemail or an action, and you're going to confirm that and follow it up with an email. Haven't heard back from him. If there's still haven't been engagement, I'm going to send him an emails on day 3, 4, and 5, and then I'll make the third phone call on day 6. And if I connect, I don't need to leave a voicemail. I just have that connection. I'm engaged, and I move out of this thing. When I respond, if you go down here to number 2, when I respond, I go to engagement. And there's a follow-up step, which I don't show here, which would say I'm now engaged. I go to my one-on-one conversation. I start down that track. So anytime I make connection with engagement in this sequence, I don't need to follow obviously to the next. So maybe only make 4 or 5 touches to get to an engagement. But at the end of the 12th day, I'm going to sort of send out my final plea. It might sound something like, hey, we haven't connected. Typically, this means you probably found another solution. Would you let me know, just leave me a phone mail after hours if I should close the file on your interest, or should we continue to try to connect? We are going to introduce, and you guys are probably the first to see it here. We're going to start introducing the idea of video messages into our cadence. We've used them. They work pretty well. It's kind of the ultimate shame on you. Jim, I've reached out to you for the last couple of weeks to email. I just want to take one last shot with this video message to you on how perhaps we can help CMIT in your learning platform selection process, something like that. Very personalized, directed specifically to that person, and just one last plea to please kind of let's connect. If that's the case, not the case, I'm going to put that person into my nurture mode, probably send another email out saying, let's just stay in touch. I'll give you a shot every 90 days. Anything comes up, let me know. In the meantime, I hope it's okay with you. I'll put you on my weekly quick tips so we can just kind of keep in touch. So that's a cadence. You're going to have an endpoint in the what I call proactive aspects of it until you get to some name point. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 14. You're going to drop them into a nurture mode and then continue to use sort of marketing nurturing to maintain regular contact with an occasional phone message or an email back to them, how things going, just checking in kind of a approach to see if that doesn't elicit a response. But this is an example of the checklist and action plan that we're going to have for a variety of different calls. We've done 2 of them now, and I'm going to show you the next one as part of our next presentation here. And that's the one we're going to use in the Jay Barrows outbound prospecting TAM, to be specific to what you were talking about. Stan, is that what you're talking about? Is that close to what you were referring to as a plan, or what do I do as I go through these various steps with leads that call in, and I have to keep after them until they answer or engage me?
Yeah, and that helps, because what I was thinking is, you got a web lead. So what do you want to do? And then you got this nice action calendar, which is perfect, because now you're saying, okay, make sure you try to do a phone call, voicemail. That makes more sense. In part of that, I was thinking, are there some form statements that have worked well in the various industries that you would use when you do that follow-up? In other words, we got to obviously make up what we want to say, but I didn't know if there was something that was already done, so you could say, okay, for a web follow-up, and we're all offering CMIT solutions, you might use this in a generic mode and then just insert certain things that are related to your particular potential client based on their industry. But the letter or the format is already there, like a template. That's
we're going to give you a lot of ideas, and yes, there's a lot of plugins, industry, demographic, business that they're in, whatever it is. And they come in the form of these tabs here. Here's an example of how you might reach out to someone and invite them to join LinkedIn. It's just a couple of ideas about how you might phrase the message.
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Email template that you could use to reach out to someone. Again, these are just examples. Hopefully they're idea spawners, idea creators for you to kind of, let me hang my hat on that and stretch it out a little bit, do something a little different, add some personal touches to it, et cetera. So we've done this for each kind of outreach, how you could leave a voicemail, how you could leave an email, how you could leave a phone conversation, what it sounds like. I've even got a video of Brad Guyland. It probably won't play here, but Brad sent out a video to his list of people he was contacting and saying, hey, it's Brad Guile, Greensboro, South Carolina. I'm just reaching out. And it's personal. It's directed to them personally. What happens if I do that?
Try it now. And
Blake, because you're in Excel, you're not in the PowerPoint, right?
I'm in Excel right now. I'll see what, this is one of my videos too.
Give it a shot. If it doesn't work, send me the link and I'll put it in Connect.
All right, it's going into a different window. So
That's sub-windowing. All right. Just go ahead and send me the direct link, or if you want to send it as a file, I can put it in there.
I'll see if I can share it here.
No, that works too.
Hey, Mike, this is Brad Guile with CMIT Solutions in Greensboro. First of all, thanks for connecting with me on LinkedIn. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can get to meet each other at some point here. Reason for my outreach today is I just wanted to let you know what we do, give you an opportunity to schedule some time with me and learn a little bit more. But we help firms, especially engineering firms, with their IT needs, make sure their systems are up and running. They're able to share data with customers as they need, that their customer data is secure, and there's someone on the other end of the phone when there's an IT problem. We also really help to lower costs for our customers. We go through the entire IT landscape that you have and see what we can do to lower your cost and keep things running. So if you'd like to learn some more, you can schedule time with me in the link below, or you can send me a message. So hey, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, so that's a video message. It's we're going to work with Brad to shorten that a little bit, and he did go a little longer on what we do versus how we help the business. We're going to kind of fine tune that, but he did a great job, and it got him some responses. And this was in direct conjunction with the cadence step of that 30-40 prospect outreach that we had our data group engage in a couple of months ago to test this concept out.
All right. So it's in that other slide that you were going through, Jim, that had the tabs on the bottom. Are we going to get that as well?
I'm going to give that to you. Yep.
Okay, excellent. That's what I was thinking about when
this is that spreadsheet that kind of shows what the options are. I'm going to put that into your extra material as along with the other one that shows it. You got to promise me one thing. Don't tell Rob.
Yeah.
And the reason I say,
Rob is on the line. He's just quiet.
I don't want you to get too deep into this because we're showing this to you at a very high level, even though it's got a lot of detail to it. We're going to work through this over the next week, mostly after you get out of class. So read through it, look at it. We're going to talk about it a whole lot in the next week as we get you engaged with it. We're going to walk you through it specifically. But I'm giving you a little preview because it's so relevant to some of the things we're talking about. And I thought it would be a good time, thanks to Stan and Tan's, both of your questions there. I thought it was a good appropriate time to show it to you. Just a little sneak
If you had waited 5 more minutes and I would have been in the lead.
All right. Okay. So we're up to our break time. Before we run into that, Bill's got a good call out in chat. Advisors not searchable in Salesforce, go to marketing assets. On the top ribbon, click CMIT General Marketing Assets. Click on newsletters, select the year, and then the newsletter. So if you want to go to your chat, utilize that as a resource. Bill, thank you for putting that in there. We appreciate that. Now you can go to break. Let's do 15. Okay. Thank you, guys. 15 minutes. We'll be back, and we'll get started on how to do targeted prospecting.
Thank you.
Did you have some, Stanley? I didn't mean to cut you off. No. Bye, Stanley.
Okay, we're done.
No, I just said thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Want to make sure we didn't cut
Thank
you
you
off.
for your question.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
I got to talk to.
Okay, wait.
There's something special. I got to talk to someone in third grade who wasn't blind.
Give me a huggy.
And she likes music. That's me.
Okay, good job, Zoya.